In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on our previous tutorial on how to cut and sew this simple inbuilt corset. So if this is something you like, please kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So if you haven't yet seen the drafting tutorial, please check on our previous tutorial, or I'm going to leave a link at the description box. So to continue from our previous tutorial, here is my pattern and I've gone ahead to cut out my fabric. Now for the upper part of this pattern, what I did was to add ½ inch at the top and this side. I also added ½ inch round the cup. So at the lower part I added, and I also added at the front part, right? So you can decide to cut yours on fold, but I cut mine into two and I went ahead to join it at the center of my pattern. So I didn't add by the side because we have already added ½ inch to the side of the pattern. Now I also repeated the same thing on the lining, and I ironed an interfacing both on the lining and the main fabric. Now here's the cup part, which I added ½ inch all the way around. And on the main fabric, I'm going to be cutting out a wording for it, while on my lining piece I went ahead to iron a gum stay on it, right? So now I'm going to go ahead to place my cup. I also went ahead to open up the other side of this pattern. Now after cutting this, right, I'm using a bra foam for my cup. I'll go ahead to place and iron. So I notched the part that is facing each other. So if you're using an already made bra, you still go ahead to join your pattern first before attaching your cup to it. So I'll go ahead to join my cup with ½ inch, both the lining and the main fabric of this dress. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead to place my cup and I'm going to iron. I'll be ironing both the lining and the main fabric, right? You need to iron out your cup. Even if you're going to attach your already made cup, this is when you'll be doing that. After joining, go ahead to like place it and stitch. So the next part is to create our boning channel. So I cut out about 1.5 inches for each strip. So I'll be going ahead to place this and I'll sew with ½ inch, then go ahead to fold it over and I will top stitch to create like a channel at the center. So I'll be marking so that it will be easier for me to identify the areas I want to mark or create the boning channel. So I'll just go ahead and mark at this point. Now to make sure I have the same measurement, I'll pick my tape and measure what I have on the other side, then go ahead to take the measurement I have here, then I will connect and also take this other side and connect, so that I will have the exact design on this side on the other side of the pattern. So I'll just go ahead and place also and create like channels on it, which we are going to pass our boning through it. So after this is what I have after creating my boning channels. So it's now time to place my cup. Now what I'll do is to find the center of this pattern, then take the center of the cup and I will place and stitch. So I forgot to mention that the excess foam you have on the bra foam, if you're using a bra foam or wadding, you will stitch it out. But if you're using like an already made cup, all you have to do is to go ahead to use your hemming gum to attach your cup to your already made cup to the cup pattern that you cut out, or you're going to stitch it with your machine. So it's very important for you to pin before going ahead to join your cup. So after going ahead to pin, now when you're pinning, if you notice that the cup is actually bigger than the space you have, go ahead to notch the body and place it so that it will fit very well. So I'll repeat this on the other side and I will also repeat on the lining piece to join it. So after I was done joining, let's move over to the yoke. I added ½ inch round my yoke, right? So this is what I have. So sorry it is not that visible because of the table is actually dark. So you stitch the neckline only and you'll be flipping it, then cut out the excess that you have on the neckline. So after I was done, I went ahead to trace it out. So sorry it's not really that visible because of the table I'm using is dark, right? So now what I'll do is to go ahead to trim out the excess on the neckline, turn it to the right side, and I will iron it out. So after this, I will now go ahead to place my yoke, and you have to like pin your yoke to your pattern. So I'm pinning it first to the main bodies of my corset, and I will go ahead to pin it. This is very important. It's best to pin before going ahead to stitch. It's going to save you a lot of stress while attaching your yoke. Now after pinning this side, I'll also pin the other side, and I'll stitch with 1/2 inch, right? Now after stitching, I will go ahead to now attach the lining to it. Now you also want to go ahead to pin this lining part to that of the neckline of the main bodies, that is the main fabric. Now when you're pinning, you want to make sure that you're pinning at the upper part, because you're going to stitch on that initial line that you stitched earlier. You see this initial line that you use in joining the yoke? That is what you'll be stitching on. So after I was done stitching my neckline, this is what I have here, right? Now let's go ahead to work on the back pattern before joining our pattern, the front to the back. So for this back pattern, I added 1/2 inch round my yoke, and then I added 1/2 inch round this pattern, except this side, because we have added our stitching allowance already. I'll unpin my pattern, then go ahead to open it up this way, right? So sorry, it's a bit dark. I should have placed it on a white surface or paper for you to see. So I stitched up the neckline of the back of this pattern, right? So after stitching it, this is what I have, and I'll go ahead to join it to my back pattern. Now you also want to notch where your yoke will start on your pattern. So I'll place this on this part now, and I will pin it down. But before pinning it down, I'll place the lining on it, because I want to stitch it down together. So I'll just go ahead and I will pin it down. Then I'll be stitching with 1/2 inch. I'll stitch this with 1/2 inch, only the upper part, and I will just leave the sides of this pattern. Also repeat this at the other side. After stitching, this is what I have. Now what I'll do is to join the front and the back. Now the first thing I'll do is to go ahead to open up the front pattern this way, and I'll open the back pattern. I'll place the front towards the right side, that is the right side of the front will face the right side of the back, which is the part that has the main fabric. I'll pin the front to the back. Now on the lining part of the dress, which is the lining of the front and the lining of the back, I'll go ahead to pin it together, and after pinning it, I'll also pin the other side. So if you pin the two sides, this is what you have. I'll just run a stitch and run a stitch at this side. So this is another way of joining your pattern, and I'll also stitch the side and also the side of this pattern too. So after stitching, this is what I have. Now it's time for you to like notch your pattern very well, so that it's going to relax. You're going to notch the sides and the neckline of this dress very well. If not, it might not relax very well. Now the excess I have on the bra foam area, I will go ahead to trim it off a little, so that that part of the dress will not be that bulky, right? And I will notch it again, flip it to the right side. So after turning to the right side, this is what I have. So I'll just go ahead and join the front and the back yoke together with 1/2 inch at the neckline area. So after stitching, because of time, I went ahead to like cut out my sleeve and attached like a little flace. So this is more like a basic sleeve that I cut out on a net, and I cut out Ankara fabric which I pleated on it. So I ran like 2 lines on the side, which will be attaching a boning to. So what I did was just a basic sleeve, and I pleated Ankara on it. I didn't really cut out like a flay. So, and I joined it with 1/2 inch. Now what I'll do is get the tip of the shoulder, the part that will be at the joining at the shoulder, place it together, and now you have to pin. And while sewing this, you also have to be careful so that you don't stretch the net that you're making the dress with. So I'm just using an ordinary net, which is not like a corset mesh. So if you're not careful, you might stretch it out and it might be loose at that part. So you want to place the sleeve and the armhole together and pin. So you'll be joining it with 1/2 inch. So I'll just go ahead and I'll pin this round. So I'll be repeating the same process for the other side. So sorry, this part is not that visible because I'm using a black net to make it actually. So after pinning it round, that is the pinning the armhole of your sleeve to the armhole of your dress. Now you're going to go ahead to stitch it round. After stitching, you will have this, and repeat the same process at the other side of the dress. So what I'll do now is to pass boning through all my boning channels, both the one I also created at the side of the corset at the back. Run like 3 lines at the side at the back of your corset. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead to sew with 1/2 inch all the way around. Now I'm through passing my boning and I've gone ahead to sew with 1/2 inch. I'll just go ahead to fold it and top stitch this at the back of the dress. We are done with that. Let's move over to the skirt. So for the initial plan of the skirt is to be a longer skirt, but due to time I just had to like reduce it so that I could meet up. So I just cut it out. Now I went ahead to like place this, and at the lower part of my skirt I added additional 1.5 inches for turn up allowance. Now I'm going to go ahead to cut out the lining, the back pattern of this skirt. So now what I'll do is to trace out this 1/2 inch here and this other 1/2 inch here. Now the only 1/2 inch I will replace is the one by the side so that my measurement will not reduce. Why that one I cut out that is on top of the skirt, I will not replace it. This is so that I don't have an excess at the upper part of my skirt. And I'll now trace out the lower part of this skirt. After cutting out, I'll go ahead to cut out the lining of this dress. For the lining, I reduced it by 1 inch. It's 1 inch shorter than the main fabric. Now whatever I do here, I'll repeat it on the lining. At the lower part, I'll go ahead to stitch this with 1/2 inch. Now after stitching, I'll pull this up. This is to create a turn up allowance, and from the tip of the ankara I have from the lining, I'll measure 1.5 inches, which I'll pin. So this is like removing that 1.5 inches that you added extra, which will now give you a turn up allowance. I'll repeat this on the other side also, and I'll now go ahead to pin my skirt, and I will stitch it with 1/2 inch on both sides. But before stitching, I'll go ahead to pin, and I'll go ahead to iron out my skirt. So after ironing, I also went ahead to turn the back the same way I did for the front, and I joined it at the lower part. So I want to go ahead to shape my skirt. I'll pin it down. So what I'll do now is to go ahead to place my tape, measure 7 inches after my waistline, and after that I'll impute my waist measurement at the upper part. So my waist is 28, and what I have here is roughly 31 inches. So I'll mark 1.5 on both sides. So here I'll also place and measure my hip. My hip is 40 divided by 4 will give you 20. I have 22 and a half. So if I take out 20 from 22 and a half, I have 2.5 inches. So I'll divide that 2.5 inches into 2, and I'll mark it on both sides of my skirt and mark at the other side, or place my tape and mark exactly 20 inches. Coming down to the lower part, I'll connect, then I'll also connect at the other side. Now after connecting at the lower side, I will go ahead and mark 2 inches here, mark 2 inches at the other side, and I'll also connect. Now if you don't want it to be too fitted, please go ahead to mark 1.5 inches at both sides of your pattern and go ahead to connect also. Ahead to stitch and attach zipper at the back. So after making the dress, I'm wearing the skirt, and I'll go ahead to zip it up, right? So I'll draw out the basque effect I want on this dress,
and after drawing that out, I'll go ahead to cut it out. So if you have someone that can do this for you, go ahead to do it, or you can just do it by yourself. So what we have there is more like a slightly roundish basque. So after this, go ahead to fold what you have in. Now on the actual dress, we have trimmings round the waist. So you can use your needle and thread to tack this to your corset, or if you don't want to use needle and thread to hold it, go ahead to top stitch this on the dress. So you just need to use your needle and thread to hand tack, or you top stitch it, and this is the final result.